afternoon. We will start with hymn number 216, Hashi Venu. I will sing the first time through, and then everyone join the second time through.
Good morning. I'd like to welcome you to this space of remembrance. I am the Reverend Sarah Getty McNeil. I serve as the Professional Development Programs Manager for the Unitarian Universalist Association. And today I bring to you the love and support of the Reverend Katie Romano Griffin, Senior Minister of All Souls, as she recovers from illness today. She is sorry she couldn't be with you. Please know that this is a place to hold. Oh, I'm missing. Okay. Sorry about that. This is a place to hold your grief, your tears, and your joy as you remember a life well lived and a person well loved. If this is your first time in a Unitarian Universalist congregation, we want you to know that we are a part of the congregational Protestant lineage of Christian churches, but more than a century ago, we decided that we would rather build our religious community on the promises we make about how we respect and treat one another, rather than on uniformity of belief. As a non-creedal community, we honor religious wisdom and truth wherever we find it, in the great religious traditions of the world and in our own hearts. When we grieve, we use our memorial services as occasions to celebrate the life of our loved one, rather than as an occasion for a proclamation of faith. After all, a life well lived is a great testament of faith. We honor the fact that each of us here has brought our own spiritual understanding of the mysteries of life and death, and will find consolation in those understandings as we work our way through our loss. We know very well that death is an inevitable part of our lives. We know as we learn to love one another that eventually our love will include loss and grief, because no matter how lucky we are in our lives, no matter how long we live, saying goodbye will come to each of us. All our knowing doesn't make it any easier. The final farewells always come as a loss for which we somehow feel ourselves unprepared. Being human, we rage against the dying of the light, as Dylan Thomas writes. Do not be perplexed if you are feeling that rage or other emotions now. It is a part of our humanity. Be present to your emotions. Accept them. They are doors into life's deeper understandings. So let us gather this day, summoned by respect and affection to demonstrate our love for both the living and the dead. We gather to comfort one another, for we have suffered a great loss. We gather to celebrate together, for we have been blessed by a life well lived. With love and with gratitude, we gather. May peace pervade this space today in the hearts of all who gather herein. Let us invoke the spirit of life and love in which we live and move and have our being to be with us in this hour as we give thanks for the life of Leon Rand. I invite Eleanor to come forward. Please join me in our covenant, as printed above. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. This is our covenant. To seek the truth in love and to help one another. This is our covenant. Thank you. Lee was born on October 8, 1930 in Boston, Massachusetts, the son of Max B. and Ricka Moscanto Rakiski. He grew up with his sister, the late Sarah Rand Friedland, and his brother, the late Burton Rand. Based on his family's recollection of his laudable personal and professional history, Lee earned a bachelor's degree in chemistry from Northeastern University, an MA and PhD in organic chemistry from the University of Texas at Austin, before completing a postdoctoral fellowship in the Department of Chemistry at Purdue University. Lee served as a professor at the University of Detroit and later moved to Youngstown State University, where he was professor of chemistry, chairman of the Department of Chemistry, dean of graduate studies, and research and acting academic vice president. He then accepted a position as the vice chancellor of academic affairs at the University of North Carolina at Pembroke. Lee was appointed chancellor of Indiana University Southeast in 1985 and successfully served during a time of notable campus and academic growth. He was named professor and chancellor emeritus upon his retirement in 1996. During his professional career, Lee received many awards and recognitions, including the Outstanding Alumni Award from Northeastern University, Sagamore of the Wabash, Indiana Senate Certificate of Achievement, and Kentucky Colonel from the Governor of Kentucky. What a record. Personally, Lee was a kind, wise, and fierce yet gentle person who had the best sense of humor. And I think we started late today because of his sense of humor, I'm convinced. Spiritually, he was a Jewish Unitarian Universalist humanist. Judaism was his faith of birth. After the death of his father, that relationship was a bit more complicated, yet he continued to connect with his roots even in college. Lee was preceded in death by his devoted and loving wife of 54 years, Marion Newton Rand, who passed in 2012. Marion was from a Protestant faith tradition, and together the couple raised 3 children: Deborah Rand Perlman, spouse Jeff, Paul Martin Rand, spouse Diane, and Marta Rand Hexamer, spouse Jay. Eventually, Lee found his home in Unitarian Universalism. And 10 years ago, he moved to the Marquette Senior Living Community in Indianapolis and found an engaging and loving community there. There, he met Phyllis Jean Schwartz, who was a loving partner until her death in September 2022, and was embraced by Phyllis's extended family, including Dee Dee and Alvin Katzman, Wendy Schwartz, and Lynn Quinneman, and their children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren. At Marquette, he truly reconnected with his Jewish faith in a meaningful way, and he continued to participate at All Souls as part of our chanting club, adult forum, and worship services. Among all of his life's greatest works and accomplishments, perhaps Lee will be remembered best as a solid, unflappable friend and devoted parent and grandparent. We miss him and honor him when we live well, act kindly, and land a well-timed joke.
And please turn to your great hymnal for hymn number 331.
Dad, you are someone we have always aspired to emulate, someone we are proud of and brag about, someone who held our hand when we cried, and someone we sometimes rebelled against. For me, the best way to honor you is to share some memories your children cherish the most. One of my own fondest memories, excuse me, is of us when I was young. When you and I used to go to the local mall, and we would always stop at Sears, Roebuck and Company to buy a good-sized bag of warm, roasted cashews from the candy counter. I can still taste them. I would hold your hand as we walked and felt so special having you to myself. My memory fades in terms of what we did at the mall, other than eat nuts and walk and talk, but it was that special time that you made sure we regularly had that I cherished the most. Now, Marta remembers most fondly when you would take just her dad out for ice cream, always with the admonishment, "Don't tell Mom." You would let her get a gigantic sundae, but you always collected your tax. You'd say, "Look over there," pointing off in the distance, and when she turned back, confused, a large bite would be taken from her sundae. It's funny how she always knew it was coming, but still fell for it. Another fond memory is going to the Unitarian Church every Sunday when we were young in our brown paneled station wagon. Dad, you would turn that classical music up really loudly in the car. While we weren't so pleased to be going and listening at that time, it always conjures up a beautiful, nostalgic picture now. We'd often drive home with us kids, proudly chewing our sour apple bubble gum, the smell of which really did a number on you, Dad. Would always stop at the deli afterwards to get bagels and the works to take home. Lovely memories. And of course, I would be remiss if I didn't mention all the silly, nonsensical words and phrases you concocted and used throughout your life. We say, "Thanks a lot, Dad," because we seem to have, to our dismay and our families, inadvertently borrowed most of your sayings. I know that while using your phrases as second nature, we often add our own spin, which your grandkids have picked up and used as their own. I assure you, Dad, at this rate, your silly expressions will be uttered by generations of our lineage to come, each with their own twist. Ujula bujula bumptious, and a scrumpy scrumpy scrumptious. You were the creative cook in the family, Dad. Memories abound of Indian pudding, pecan waffles and bacon, kosher bacon, and the incomparable American cheese and peanut butter sandwiches for us kids. You never understood why we always picked out the cheese. I had newfound appreciation for that combination when about 10 days ago, you just weren't hungry and I was urging you to eat something. Finally, you said, "Would you please make me a half a bagel with peanut butter and pepper jack cheese?" You ate it, and I was oh so grateful. We will miss you, Dad. Your decency, sincerity, and kind soul will be with us forever. Today, we celebrate the blessing of knowing and loving you, a great man and the best father a son or daughter could ever have. We love you, Dad.
Hi there, and thank you all for coming. It's so nice to see all of you here today. Okay. Not long ago, Stephen Colbert hosted actor Keanu Reeves on his nightly program. In a fleeting philosophical moment, Colbert asked his guest, "What do you think happens when we die?" After a meaningful pause, Keanu noted, "When we die, those who love us will miss us. Those who love us will miss us." There have been volumes written about life and death, but I've not heard many statements as succinct or as profound, and from Keanu Reeves nonetheless. Leon Rand was very loved, and Leon Rand will be very, very deeply missed. While my dad was brilliant and accomplished, his real gift was making people feel valued and important, that they mattered to him and to the world. My dad, as each of you know firsthand, loved to make people laugh. His joy was utterly infectious. And when you made him laugh in return, it was as if you had a special connection. I will remember many, many things about my father. He had as profound a positive impact on my life as any person could possibly have had. In my final conversation with him, I thanked him for being such a wonderful husband, for being such a wonderful father, such a wonderful person, and really such a wonderful friend. When I see my father's face, I see the kind smile, the welcoming eyes, the look, you all know this, the look right before he gave a wisecrack. and I remember how I felt being around him. Those who love us will miss us. Leon Rand was very loved, and Leon Rand will be very, very deeply missed.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Julia. I'm Leon Rand's eldest grandchild. Leon Rand, Lee, Grandpa, Leon Rakitsky, Dr. Rand, and Dad. He had many titles in his life because he lived it so fully and so fiercely. I know we are all here today to mourn in our own ways, but I would prefer to think of this as a celebration. The celebration of a man who cherished every moment and always put his loved ones first. I've heard stories over the years of the challenges my grandfather overcame in his life and of the experiences he had. And what always stuck with me was not the challenges themselves, but how gracefully he walked forward from each one of them towards his future. The true test of a man is not how he acts at his best, but how and if he chooses to stand back up when he has fallen. So today we celebrate. We celebrate a man who became a man much younger than is expected of a boy. His own father passed away when Lee was only 13. A man who sought the best education he could find and immediately turned his education into a gift for the community, relaying all that he had learned back to future generations of students. A man who loved, and a man who lost, and a man who loved again. It is rare that we meet someone who got to experience true love so many times in their life. A man who raised 3 wonderful children and enjoyed the spoiling of 8 grandchildren. A man who never let age define him, always a purveyor of the arts. Grandpa picked up the cello at a startling age of 65 and learned to master the instrument beautifully. And in his younger years, he spoiled his grandkids with beautiful pieces of handmade woodwork. One of my favorite memories growing up is our Christmas tradition. Every year we would gather together in Grandma and Grandpa's home in Carmel, Indiana, and all the grandkids would come camp out in our sleeping bags in Grandma and Grandpa's family room. On Christmas morning, we would wake up to the smell of sticky buns, Grandpa's specialty, and sit around the table for a breakfast of terrible puns and smiles. Grandpa was such a kind soul, never judging and always listening. As I continue to move through life, it was a joy to share my journey with him and know of how much of a role he played in shaping who I would become.
Grandpa, I remember our early mornings in Indianapolis, just you and me, drinking OJ and coffee and eating Grandma's banana bread before others had wakened. I remember your train set, the self-playing piano that all of us grandchildren would take turns playing on for hours. I remember your friends at 3 Crowns, brimming with joy upon realizing I was your grandson, referring to you as that prankster and that son of a gun, but they didn't say gun. In the most loving way. I remember some of your chemistry-related jokes that I don't deign repeat at your funeral. And I can't forget the countless email conversations we've had since I was 13 on anything from our latest book and TED Talk recommendations to your thoughtful responses to any ideas I would send your way. You weren't afraid of the big questions either. I remember the winter of 2020, we listened to a few melancholic arias per your recommendation, and we talked about death very openly and not in a negative or positive light. You were so clear-headed, and so ready even then. I didn't understand. I'm not sure I still fully do. But there was a strange sense of contentment and peace in having had these conversations with you. I feel I understand your thoughts going into your next stage in the universe. I feel I know where you are. I can hear you, not only through my own memories, but through all of those around me in whom you have left a piece of yourself, and especially in those who you have blessed or cursed with your characteristic Rand humor. I didn't realize until much later just how many lives you have lived, but I am grateful to be a part of this one. Your encouragement and influence on me is indelible. Your presence, even now, unwavering. Your friendship and love felt, appreciated, and uniquely understood. Love, Mason.
And please turn in your gray hymnal to hymn number 336.
Ralph Waldo Emerson said, "A great man is always willing to be little." Lee Rand was a great man. In fact, our family called him Great Lee, spelled G-R-A-T-E. He came by this moniker quite naturally when he was introduced into our family through my mom, Phyllis Schwartz, shortly after he moved into Marquette. Lee and Mom had an instant connection, which I was able to witness as I visited Mom at Marquette and sat with her morning coffee group several times a week. It did not take long for the coffee clutch to see that something very special was happening. And just like that, Lee was part of the family and participated in our gatherings nearly every week for birthdays, holidays, dinner, or just hanging out. One gathering early on in Mom and Lee's relationship was a combined birthday party for our grandchildren, Bryce turning 3 and Ezra turning 5. Handmade thank you notes followed. On Mom's envelope, Ezra printed, "To Great Grammy," G-R-E-A-T, that's what she was called. And on Lee's envelope, he printed, "To Great Lee," G-R-A-T-E. Grammy was G-R-E-A-T, I don't know if I said that right. Lee was thereafter known as Great Lee and considered a great man, irregardless of spelling, which is one of his favorite words. Lee was great, and yet so humble, that when our friends and extended family read Lee's many accomplishments noted in his obituary, they were surprised. In their condolences, they remarked about Lee's humility, what a lovely man he was, and how much he will be missed. Maya Angelou wrote, "I've learned that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but they will always remember how you made them feel." I think Lee was the inspiration for this quote. Lee made Mom and our family members feel incredibly loved and special. He also made strangers he encountered feel visible and heard, starting with simple gestures of asking about their name and other questions showing personal interest. We will cherish our memories of Lee with love. We will never forget you, great Lee.
When Linda and I were looking at Marquette, marketing arranged a lunch for us with a resident couple, Lee Rand and Phyllis Schwartz. About 2 years later, we moved onto Marquette's 4th floor. One day later, we entered the hallway and met Lee, who lived across from us, and Phyllis. This was the start of our relationship. Lee and I shared a similar sense of humor. I loved meeting him in the hallway and asking, "How are you?" What I got was his dry sense of humor and a response with a funny reverse question in return. Not necessarily a direct answer, but an answer. Lee was a sharing person, even his secret stuff. He asked if I'd like corn. Next thing I know, we're heading to his favorite farmer's corn stand in the middle of farm country. Lee was a caring and tender person. You just needed to watch how he attended to Phyllis's needs. Lee was an involved person. We worked together setting up the monthly Jewish service. 1 month, he bought the wine and I bought the bread. The next month, it was the reverse. During a recent visit, he made sure I got that bottle of wine that was in his fridge. Thank you. Lee would surprise me. Over dinner, he talked about growing up in a Jewish home. In conversation, he would throw out a Jewish expression. Who is this guy full of surprises? Lee knew how to make a guy cry. During one of my recent visits, I saw he was getting tired, and I said I would be leaving. He said, "Don't leave." In the days since his passing, when Marquette residents talk about Lee, their words are generous, caring, smart, funny, kind, and nice. As Barbara Furlow has said, and I quote her, "He was a remarkable human being," end quote. During one of our floor meetings, someone said the hardest part of living at Marquette is losing friends. Oh, that's so true with Lee Rand. Lee Rand of blessed memory.
And in the great hymnal, please turn to 346, Come Sing a Song with Me. Come sing a song with me. Come sing a
Thank you. Thank you for being here today and bearing witness to a life well lived. In just a moment, the postlude will play and the family will recess to the reception area directly across the double doors at the back of the sanctuary. You're invited to join them. As we prepare to move from this space of sadness and celebration, I bring to you these words from the project Plowshares. Lead me from death to life, from falsehood to truth. Lead me from despair to hope, from fear to trust. Lead me from hate to love, from war to peace. Let peace fill our hearts, our world, our universe. Amen.
Yes, we can.
Amen.